Hi, and welcome to Unit CPPINV3026, Work Effectively in Investigative Services. This unit is pretty much the only unit that dives into some legislation, so don't get scared off thinking the whole course is going to be bogged down in legislation. It's not. But it's good to know how this legislation impacts you as a private investigator to give you a really good foundation to work off. Now, there are three main pieces of legislation that you're going to need to look at. The Privacy Act, the Australian Privacy Principles, which we also call the APPs, which they're actually contained in the Privacy Act, and the Surveillance Act for your state, or the equivalent acts of the Surveillance Act for your state. There are links in the course material that will take you to these pieces of legislation, or you can just Google them, the information you're after. So let's say you're in South Australia. The quickest way to look at the information in regard to you as a private investigator, let's say if you're using a tracking device, is you would just Google, can tracking devices be used in South Australia? And it will come up with a choice of pages taking you straight to the Act in relation to tracking devices in South Australia. It really is as simple as that. It is the same for the Australian Privacy Principles. You can just Google the Australian Privacy Principles reference guide if you don't want to use the link provided. Speaking of the Australian Privacy Principles, or the APPs, let me give you a little hint. A private investigator can collect personal information in their line of work without the consent of the owner. But I need you, when you're answering the question on this, just to have a look at the APPs and reference that AP or the APPs that go along with the answer. In regard to sensitive information, a private investigator cannot use sensitive information unless they get consent of the owner of that sensitive information, or unless it is a real life or death situation. Once again, when answering this question on this, I'll need you to reference the relevant APP to go along with it. And look, don't stress, there are only 13 APPs. The Privacy Act has a list of what is personal information and what is sensitive information. And it's really good to familiarise yourself with these different acts that I've mentioned. Apart from looking up these acts, all the other information you need to complete the questions are actually in the Learner's Guide. Now, a question in this unit asks about, does the Privacy Act apply to a private investigator operating a small business? Can I give you a hint to look at Section 6D 4D in the Privacy Act? Don't get caught up with all the other stuff about things like a $3 million turnover and that. Concentrate more on why it does apply due to Section 6D 4D and reference it. There is one question in this unit that is neither right or wrong. It is the question about a father asking you to conduct surveillance on his daughter. Don't be concerned about your answer being right or wrong. I'm more interested on the research about the legislation, about the scenario, and giving me your reasons why you would or you would not conduct the surveillance. In this question, it's not asking you to install a device on a private premise. It's suggesting conducting surveillance from the street, a public place. But there are areas covered in the Privacy Act that you may want to research in regard to when should a person be afforded privacy, or what is actually considered a private act. Look, see how you go. As I said, there is no right or wrong answer. It's more about, I want to see your research and why you would or you would not take on the job. When you get to the practicals, don't forget to watch the introduction video at the beginning of the course to know where to find the templates to complete the practicals in each of the units in this course. There is one template in this practical that has 3 scenarios on it they all need to be completed. You just go through the template and complete it, making up your own outcomes to each of the scenarios given. There is a sample completed template of the first scenario that sits as a PDF file under the introduction video at the beginning of the course. Please click on it and open it up to have a look at it and use it. It gives you an idea of the minimum that is expected of you in quantity and quality for each completed scenario. Also in the introduction video is an explanation of where to find the student sign-off form and how to fill the student sign-off form in. Look, it really is easy. I need you to put your name at the top of the form. This is the student sign-off form. I need you to put your name at the top of the form. I need you to put an X next to each subject that you've completed, and that should be all of them, under the S column. And then put your name near the bottom of the form, just after the words, "I have observed." Then put your name. That is all you do. You don't have to sign it. You don't have to PDF it. You just save it, submit it, and lodge it. You will notice that there is a submit button within each unit, and you will need to click on this to submit your answer, but there is another step you actually take to send it through to your assessor for assessing, and that is by clicking on the lodge button. Once you have lodged the unit for assessing and actually completed also the student declaration, the next unit will automatically open up for you. If you get stuck on a question, don't hesitate to message your assessor with a query from that question. Just click on the Message Assessor button at the left-hand bottom of the page while you are actually in that question and ask for guidance. I really hope you enjoy this unit, have fun with it, and we're looking forward to seeing your work submitted.